there's another problem that actually not made, but all the Chinese focus on is about the lithography. I mean, the ASML thing. It's abandoned the Chinese company could get the lithography machine to make chips. And this is about this question, we think about another thing. Is about, do you think this use of trade by the technological powers, especially intellectual property, limiting the developing country access to the advanced technology, especially when you have a lot of patent? The patent used to be a good thing to protect the person who invented it, but now it seems that it became some barrier or obstacle for the new people or new country, new company access to it. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a very good, very, very good question. And I think patent protection being used as a political tool is not a good idea. I mean,
sometimes maybe abuse.
Indeed, the potential for abuse is very much there. I mean, this whole question of chips and China becoming or wishing to become as good at producing high quality and ever more precise chips. America is afraid. I mean, I'm neutral in these matters. I'm just, for a start, I'm British by tradition, although I live in the United States now. But the word is, if you ask an everyday American, that, quote, China is a threat. And therefore, China should not be allowed to have the kind of technological ability that America has or wishes to have. My way of thinking, that is quite absurd. I totally disagree. And I think China should not be regarded as a threat at all. Healthy competition is a good thing. All of mankind ought to be able to benefit from healthy competition. So I have no problem at all with China having ASML devices and the ability to make the highest quality chips imaginable. But maybe that's wishful thinking. It certainly is counter to Washington's policies at the moment. Washington does not wish to give up its position in the world without a struggle. That's what we're seeing.
So about yesterday, some science group in China who invented our own quantum computer. They have their own cloud platform, and the person the person who be the leader in this group, he said, we will open to the whole world, to the public, and we believe it is a good thing to think. I hope all things can be that, but it's just a dream.
No, it sounds like a dream, but I think you and I are probably on the same side. We would like the whole world to be open to this, but at the moment, particularly within one political party in the United States, China is a dangerous animal, and to me, it's not. I mean, I wrote this book many years ago about Joseph Needham, Li Yuse, and his fascination with Chinese science and technology over the years, and the number of things that China invented, from the stirrup to the wheelbarrow, that it was a benefit to the whole of society, the whole of humankind. I think we've just got to remember that. And you benefit by driving motor cars invented in Germany by Daimler-Benz. We benefit hugely from things like paper and printing, which you guys invented. We've got to just relax and accept that humankind as a whole has great potential for inventing.
And you just reminded me of another case in your books about GPS. You said when the Reagan's government, they found the GPS and the military invented, and they decided to open to the whole world, and decided welfare to the whole world. But now we found a lot of countries have just developed their own navigation system. It seems that the GPS has lost the trust of this country. What do you think? And why? And why they have to invent their own?
Well, that is interesting. What is the name of the Chinese GPS?
Beidou.
Beidou. And do you, is that available to me theoretically?
Yes. And to this civilian, it should be, the precision should be 10 centimeters. 10 centimeters.
pretty
much
remarkable.
more
Yeah,
beyond the GPS.
far beyond GPS. Although I have a friend who's working with Jamstec in Yokohama, and they have accuracy, they say, up to 5 millimeters.
Wow,
which
that's
is
good.
quite extraordinary, yes. But interestingly enough, I went to, and this goes to not this book, but the most recent book I've written, which is about the transmission of knowledge and the effects that these new labor-saving devices are having on our brains. And this was a woman, I was in Washington, D.C. the other day at a restaurant called the Iron Gate, and she drove in from across the river in Virginia using GPS to get close to the restaurant, and then parked her car and decided to walk the remaining quarter mile to the restaurant. And she got out of the car and she said, "I've lost my sense of direction. I used to know that if it was noon and the sun was in the sky and I walked towards it, I would be going south. But I'd completely forgotten that because GPS has stripped my brain of the ability to have this sense of direction." So the question is, are all of these devices, like the calculator or the spell checker or Google or Wikipedia or whatever, stripping our brain of the ability to think? I have my own views about this. I'm actually quite optimistic. But to me, electronics, obviously particularly generative AI, have effects that we cannot at the moment rightly imagine.
Talking about AI, I have to mention the popular one, the Chat GPT. You know, it's really popular. About one month ago or 2 months ago, all of my colleagues are just trying to find an account so they could use it, make a lot of interesting things. I don't know what is interesting about it, but there are a lot of people crazy about that. So when we're talking about the Chat GPT, there's some problem about the philosophy, like is always I mean new technologies came. There are a lot of people aroused the concern about it may be replace people's jobs.
As an example, in this new book of mine, which I believe Cheers is publishing in a year's time, we gave ChatGPT 3.5 the first sentence of one of my paragraphs that I had already written in the book, and said, "Okay, write it yourself in my style, and we'll use it as an illustration." So there's my paragraph is on, let's say, page 350, and then in a box on page 352, ChatGPT 3.5 version of my paragraph. And when it came in, my editor said, "It's pretty good," which
Wow.
made me think, oh my God, what am I going to do when I come to write my next book? I got it to, there's a famous poem, possibly less familiar in China than in Britain, called Ozymandias by a poet called Shelley in the 19th century, a beautiful poem. And I gave the first line of this poem to ChatGPT 3.5 and said, "Okay, you write it yourself." It's a sonnet, 14 lines. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was meaningless, it was rubbish, but beautifully, beautifully written. And but then a case came up the other day when ChatGPT 4.0 was asked to write a legal opinion, and it cited about 10 cases. And it turned out that every single one of the 10 was completely
just make up something.
It was fiction, yeah. So I think rather like with Wikipedia, and I know not as easily available there, you don't trust it totally.
I mean, need regulation?
Well, I think so. I think that seems to be where it's all going. But how are you regulated? Well, who? I mean, you saw the other day that the government of the state of Montana is saying that TikTok is illegal. I mean, how on earth do you police that? I mean, do you snooze? But an interesting illustration of that kind of thing, my agent in London happens to be the agent for the estate of George Orwell. George Orwell, the writer. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
So,
1984.
Yeah, 1984. So about 10 years ago, Amazon, I think it was selling 1984, and they said 1984 was written in 1948, so it's beyond the realm of copyright law. And so they published it or sold it. And my agent said, no, you can't sell it. We've renewed the copyright. The estate of George Orwell owns 1984. So you must stop publishing it. So they agreed. But the sinister thing was that they went into everybody's computer who had bought it and sucked it back out of their computers. It was like you bought a book and it's in your library, and when you're asleep, someone unlocks your door, comes in and takes the book out again. Because they said, Amazon said, we didn't actually sell you the book. We gave you a permanent lease on the book, and we have the right to take it away.
It's ridiculous.
It is totally ridiculous. So who regulates TikTok in Montana? It's the same kind of argument.